Hey everyone! I'll be going into After Effects and showing you how to use track mats, including a few animations, for this week's fundamentals video. To kick things off, what is a track mat? Track mats are a type of mask in After Effects where you can use one layer's content, particularly shape layers, to hide the content of the layer immediately below it. If you've watched my AI masks tutorial, this works the same way as clipping masks. By default though, you won't have access to the track mats menu. To use it, we need to head down to the bottom of the timeline, and on the far left, click on the second white button, which will show more options. The other thing we're going to need to use them is at least 2 layers. If you have a PNG file with transparency, place it on top. Alternatively, you can click in an empty space in the timeline to make sure you don't have a layer selected, and then head up to the Shape tools at the top, or press Q. Either way, with the Shape tool active, click and drag in your comp. Then we'll need the thing we're going to be masking. This can be a photo, illustration, footage, text, adjustment layer with effects, pretty much whatever you want to mask. The main point is that you want to make sure this layer you're adding goes under the previous one. Then we can set the mat. You have 4 options. The first is going to be an alpha mat. This will use the transparency of the top layer, hiding your bottom layer except for where there's content. If you have a layer on top that has different transparencies, the bottom layer will become less visible as the opacity gets lower, the same as the top layer. Alternatively, you can use alpha mat inverted, which, as the name suggests, inverts what I just said, so that your content will be visible outside of the top layer's content instead. The other type of mat you can make is a luma mat. This uses the luminance, or brightness, of your mat layer. The closer to white a color is, the more visible the content will be, and the darker colors will hide your content. Using a luma mat inverted will just switch it so darker colors show content and lighter colors will mask it out. Now, there is a downside to track mats. Unlike clipping masks, you can only apply your mat to one layer, the one directly underneath it. This can mean a lot of duplicating, which makes for terrible layer management. Fortunately, you can fix this with a quick workaround. An easy way to do it is to select all of the layers you want to hide with your mat, right-click and choose Pre-Comp. Give it a name and hit OK, and then apply your track mat to that comp that was just created, which is now in the comp. And with all that in mind, I'll be going into some ways you can animate this now. The simplest option you have is to pop your content in. What I mean by that is, think news tickers or other examples where text seems to appear from nowhere while it's moving. You can do this by animating the position of your content so it's initially hidden outside of the comp, and then move forward and drag the content in past your mat. This will make it look like your content's sliding in, using the mat to hide it until you want it to show up while mid-motion. For the next trick, you can make your content transition in and out as well. To do this, unroll the transform properties of your mat layer and hit the stopwatch next to whichever settings you'll be animating. Then move forward in the timeline and change those settings, which will make a new keyframe and animate the movement. For me, I'll be using the scale and positions, but your project may vary. In my example, I'm first animating the mat across my comp, which will then, when used as a mat, make my content appear from the left side to the right. Then, I add a scale animation, starting it at 0 and moving it up. Now, as my content starts appearing from the left side, it also scales up so it's a solid bar moving across the comp to transition that image in and out. Layer a few of these and you've got a potentially awesome shot. If you're using a shape layer as your track mat, you can get more complex with it too. First, you can make more detailed paths using the pen tool and taking shapes out of other shapes for more complicated masks. Then, you can animate the individual shape's transform properties. This lets you move them separately and change how they work together with the content being matted. And then, you can separately animate your content, such as moving its position across the mat's shape to give the effect even more depth. I should also mention that you can show the mat's content even while it's acting as a mat by clicking on the eye icon on the left of your layer. You can get a bit more stylized with this, for example, by changing the fill colors of your shapes in the shape layer. If you then change the layer's blending mode to, say, color, your image will now get colorized to that shape's colors. If you know how to use shape layer animators, like the trim paths or repeater, you can add those too. And if you don't know what those are, stay tuned, because I also have a future video planned on doing those as well. And that was the fundamentals of using track mats in After Effects. I hope everyone's learned something and had fun doing it. If you have any questions, thoughts, or other feedback, you can let me know with a comment below or with a message to @ET_studios on Twitter. You can also like this video and share it around. I'd appreciate the help getting the word out. And I'm going to be back here every Friday, so be sure to subscribe for more awesome content. Have a great day, everyone.